On, go live. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Between a Pot and a Hard Place. I'm Stephen Colton.
And I'm Chris Kirkpatrick.
And I literally just got home from work, still wearing this shirt and everything.
I know. There was a moment where I was like, is he going to make it on time or not tonight?
Yeah. I mean, I almost had to say either like, hey, you guys, I'm leaving. I don't care. And then make this big epic walkout thing. But then be like, but I'll be back tomorrow. But I was like, no, I'll just tough it out and see what happens. The good thing about that is like my paycheck's gonna be that much bigger. And how about that new opening graphic?
I was great. I really liked it.
We think I got to thank Corey for that. He kind of took the image and put it with the music, and it's our new little intro video.
Yeah, Corey's become quite our tech guru.
Yeah, I offered to like put his Twitter or whatever on the thing. He's like, no. Maybe I just ruined his secret. He was like, I'm gonna be like the secret guy, or like I don't want credit. And I'm just like, well, I just ruined that for you. But,
right. We just threw him out there for everybody to follow him and like him on social media.
Yeah, and I'm still on the wrong side of the computer coast. We'll figure that out one day. I'll have to Google something and see if there's a way to switch that up. But if everybody would just turn their computer screens upside down,
right, it'll all be right that way.
And then then we could sit upside down, and then it would.
Imagine that you're in Australia.
Yeah,
then it's perfect.
Just or Japan or China, whatever.
Right. So I gotta say, this is probably a really great time to be a superhero lover, right? This seems to be like an explosion of shows returning and everything else. Kind of cool. I feel like though that my watch list this week doubled.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I mean, I'm discovering new things that I haven't even heard of that I've been watching, and we'll talk some more about that. But I realized too, I didn't think about it for the podcast, but DC fandom just happened.
Yeah,
or is happening or whatever. And I was like yesterday, I saw the trailer for the Batman.
Okay.
And for the Flash, little teaser trailers.
Yeah. What did you think? I wasn't able to watch it yesterday, but what did you think of the DC fandom?
I didn't watch it either. I just kind of read little notes and things, and the biggest thing was I watched those two trailers.
Yeah.
And I loved the Batman trailer. Had I gotten home earlier and had the thought of doing it, I could have had those clips, those trailers to show people on the show. I think that'd be really cool to share that. But the Batman looks really great. Everybody like, oh, Mr. Sparkles. Oh, he's gonna. But I think he's really gonna do a good job. I really do.
Yeah, I take a lot of issue with people who want to automatically judge the Batman to be a subpar Batman movie simply because of Robert Pattinson. The guy's a legit actor. He's really, really good. And I really want to wait to reserve judgment on a film until I've actually seen it for myself. How often have we judged a trailer or movie based on the trailer instead of letting the movie speak for itself?
I think the one case where that was a fair judgment was Topher Grace's Venom.
Okay. I mean, absolutely.
And I didn't read the article, but I saw a headline a couple of days ago that says, sorry, folks, Topher Grace's Venom is better than Tom Hardy's. And I'm like, I'm not reading this article.
No, that's absolute garbage. But I think that the point is, hey, let's give the Batman a chance.
Yeah.
Maybe let's give it a chance to shine. Maybe that's an appropriate expression, given Mr. Sparkles himself. But
yeah, and it is kind of funny, though, that he's playing Batman and he was a vampire, vampires. Okay. But when I saw that trailer and I thought, okay, cool. There's a good bit of action. He says something as Batman, but I don't remember what the line was, but he was just like, and he had that, of course, that trademark Batman, like.
That growl.
Yeah, the growl.
Yeah.
He's like, the other guy's going to die, the werewolf dude. I don't like him. He didn't say anything like that, but he said something, and he was in the mask and everything, and it was just really cool. Now,
I'd really love to know what people in the group or anybody watching the show here tonight kind of thinks about the Batman. Are you excited about it? Is it something that you're not very excited about? Do you think it's stupid? I'd love to see some comments in the chat,
yeah,
frankly, about the Batman and what you think about it. Um, I think also you saw for the Flash as well, right?
yeah, the Flash trailer, and I want to say something too because we over the last week we've kind of been back and forth with. Well, I kind of went back and forth with some people on Twitter
Yeah.
about the Ezra Miller story from what was it like 75 years ago?
I'm glad that you brought that up. I really am. Yeah.
Because honestly, I've watched that video of the alleged choking about 100 times since it was first put out on the internet, and honestly, every time I watch it, I just can't see how that girl is in any danger whatsoever. I'm not protecting him. I'm not saying, oh, he didn't choke her. He might have been a little aggressive. I can't really tell. It's 7 seconds.
Right.
And
yeah.
she was smiling. He gently laid her on the ground as if he was gonna as if she was dying, and him telling her "I love you" is gonna bring her back to life. Some cheesy little moment. That's what it looked like. It didn't look like he's like, you know what? Come here, bro. Like it didn't look like Hulk was gonna smash.
Right. I mean, I think to kind of give people a little bit of perspective, we had posted something on our social media on Twitter about how if people were excited about the new Flash movie, and somebody said they weren't going to watch the new Flash movie simply because of that one instance with Ezra Miller interacting with a fan. Now, I will say, our social media being what it is, and how a picture is worth 1,000 words, you do
Yeah.
something stupid in front of a camera, and it can absolutely blow up out of control.
Yeah.
However, the fact that you pointed out something that I thought was really important and that somehow I totally missed, and that was the idea that this happened on April Fools.
Yeah, and I honestly didn't realize that either until I read some comments. And normally you can't take social media comments as truth, but I looked into it. Somebody was like, "It's April Fool's a good joke, guys," and I looked into it, and all the heat, all the hatred, and all this buzz in the media was around April 3rd or 2nd through the 5th or 6th of that year, and after that, it was done.
Yeah,
And it was like, okay, why did no one talk about this April 7th and on? Why did it disappear out of everything? And people have said, oh, COVID. Everybody was talking about COVID. They didn't talk about it because of COVID. Like if they talked about, I'm not going to get political, but anything Donald Trump said, they talked about. Anything that anybody said, they talked about. Why is Ezra Miller so special that COVID made everybody forget about him?
yeah.
I don't think that's the case. I just think that it was such a non-issue that people just forgot.
Now, I think that to put this in perspective, number one, we at Between a Pod and a Hard Place do not advocate violence on women or men touching women or violence of really any kind. If Ezra Miller was found to be guilty in the court of law of going and attacking anyone for any reason, then he deserves to be punished. However,
absolutely.
Evidence doesn't really seem to bear out that fact that he has done anything wrong. And it just seems like public opinion has branded him guilty without any real trial or without any investigation. It's just people have seen the video and they jump to the conclusion that he is guilty. It's a highly cut, highly edited video, and it just leaves people. It makes them look bad.
Yeah, and the only thing in the video that actually raises any sort of concern is at the end when the guy holding the camera is like, "Oh, bro, no, bro," and he's holding it and it starts to shake and then it goes out.
Right.
It's like, how do we know that as soon as he turns it off, everybody's like, "Ah ha 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 ha."
Right.
But
Clearly, whoever was taking the video was hoping for that little snippet so that he could get likes and shares.
And I think too that it might have started as a joke, but it escalated, and then I think Ezra Miller possibly could have been agitated towards the girl, but who knows what happens beforehand? We always hear that, like when a cop beats or kills an innocent man, and they say, "Well, you don't know what he did to cause the cop to beat him." I'm like, it doesn't matter. And same with this case, you don't know what happened beforehand, but there was no real severe beating. I saw a smile on her face the entire time, and she was gently placed on the ground. I'm not saying that maybe he grabbed her and thought, okay, I better be careful because I don't want to hurt her really. I just want her to be scared. That still would be wrong. So, but the thing that sticks out to me the most about that whole situation is she never once, to my knowledge, and not that it didn't happen, but I would imagine if it did happen, it would have been all over the media coverage too, just like everything else.
Yeah.
She never said, "Oh, he hit me," or "Oh, I was hurt by him." Now, of course, I'm not saying that means it didn't happen. Same with sexual assault. They say, "Oh no, he didn't," and then years later, well, he did. I was just scared of him, so I didn't say anything. Like that could be the case, but there were no police filings, no reports, no charges, no investigations, nothing.
Right. Well, and I feel like in doing due diligence after this was kind of brought to our attention, I went and did some digging to find out if I could find any background or any follow up or anything else, and I really couldn't, which to me always sends up a red flag.
Mm-hmm.
And so sometimes I feel like we make mountains out of molehills, right? And while I know that there are legitimate examples of people, of men abusing their power and hurting women, you know, I just question the validity of this one particular example, or saying I'm not going to watch the entire movie because of this one example with Ezra Miller.
And it's interesting too because a lot of the same people, not the same people, I don't want to generalize and say like it's the same people, but a lot of people with Hartley Sawyer, his tweets from like 8-9 years ago that were pretty misogynistic and racist and all this other stuff, and everybody's like, well, that was a while back. He doesn't mean it anymore. It's like, well, why can't you say, well, Ezra Miller didn't really mean that? I mean, but and who knows? Maybe the whole situation is totally true, and we don't know this, but maybe she punched him in the eye right before filming, and he was defending himself. Who knows?
Right. We really don't know. I think what is quite telling is the fact that there was no repercussions from the studio. You know, generally speaking, for a lot of these movies and TV shows, if their actor is involved in anything that makes them look bad, there are generally repercussions.
Yeah, usually.
Right. And the idea that he somehow, escaped that. Mind you, there's millions of dollars wrapped up in this film. But I have to believe that if he was involved in some kind of serious crime with credible evidence, that something would have been done either professionally or criminally, he wouldn't just walk away and nobody would talk about it. And so,
exactly.
Again, I think that sometimes we make more out of situations than need be. That doesn't take away the truth that there are people who abuse women and deserve to be punished to the full extent of the law. Again, if you're out there watching this show, what are your 2 cents on the issue with Ezra Miller? Does he deserve punishment? Should he be let off? What do you guys think?
Yeah, and Corey, if you're out there right now, then you always have some fun. I was going to say something fun to say, but there's nothing fun about the situation.
No.
But,
Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad that we brought that up. I think that it definitely it warrants discussion, and I think, I think that we had gotten into some hot water territory a little bit. It's one of those issues, I think, that gets people fired up and they take their corner. Somehow you have to either be completely on Ezra Miller's side or you have to be completely on burn him at the stake. And if you even try to be someplace in the middle, you get branded the worst of both. And I think that's where we got ourselves in trouble a little bit. Anyway, I'm glad that we brought it up. On a more positive note, I will say that I'm excited about the new Flash movie.
Yeah.
It seems like they're going to do a legit Flashpoint.
I'm sure there's going to be some, differences, obviously. So far, we don't know that there's going to be a Wonder Woman or a Green Lantern or anything like that. All we know is there are going to be 2 versions of Batman. And from what I've read, they're going to be on screen together. But who knows? Because the teaser, I don't know if anybody's watched it. And I don't want to really spoil it, though, if nobody has. But there, Should I spoil it? I don't know. I don't know.
This is we've spoiled before. I don't see
It's
why we should
true.
stop now.
The one thing that I noticed is, you see, we've all known Michael Keaton was going to be Batman again,
Yeah.
and we know that Ben Affleck will be Batman again in this movie. And so there's a shot where you see Flash, and then you see all kinds of different things, and then you see the Batman cowl from the back, and you see the head, you see the ears, and that's Michael Keaton because it has the really tall Batman and Batman Returns ears. And so that was really cool. And then at the end of the trailer, you see this big, what looks like a car under a big sheet. And then Barry Allen grabs the sheet and he's like, no way. And he pulls it off. And as he's pulling it, it fades to black or just jumps to black. And he's like, whoa, this is awesome. And then that's it. You don't
But
see
it is the Michael Keaton Batmobile.
That's got to be that 1989 Batmobile.
Right. Which I really love. I think they made that that was like it was like a rocket on wheels.
Yeah, and they did the same exact thing in Crisis on Infinite Earths. If you all remember, we saw I think it was oh gosh, which one was it? It was they jumped between so many Earths in that thing. I think it was Earth, I forget the number, where Kate Kane was sent to find Bruce Wayne, and he was supposed to be the paragon of bad writing or something like that. And
Courage.
Courage. But yeah, and we see the Batmobile there same way. It's under a sheet, but you see that shape. You see the body of the car, and we know. I think it's official that Grant Gustin will have a cameo. I still think that's going to just be the cameo from Crisis on Infinite Earth. I think they're just going to take the same clip and play that, which would be fine. But hopefully they add a little bit more to it. Other than just like, ooh, your suit is cool. Can I touch it? Oops, that's awkward. Like, that was funny. But, if we see the exact same thing again, then it's like, well, okay.
I would like to believe that a movie is going to give them more time to kind of flesh that out a little bit more.
Yeah.
That was a teaser in Crisis on Infinite Earths. I think what they're going to try to show us is really Flash's ability to move between Earths and different times. And so that's going to be a part of that whole journey.
And we haven't really seen, at least the extended movie universe of DC, their version of time travel. We've seen Marvel's, we've seen the CW's version, but we don't really know the rules as far as what Barry Allen can do. Like, if he goes back in time, will it change his future? I'm assuming they will, because no version of the Flash's time travel has been that different, really, as far as the rules go. So he has to be careful and not to step on any butterflies.
He does, and isn't that really the point of Flashpoint, right?
Yes.
The idea that Barry Allen decides that he's going to use his abilities to go back, and I don't think I can blame him for wanting to save his mother from dying.
No.
But the idea that moment was so pivotal in his development in becoming the Flash, that changing that moment changes everything else.
Yeah, there were no what did Hero call it in Heroes? I just watched that show and I just finished the last episode of Hero, and I started Reborn and almost finished Reborn. I'm on the last couple of episodes of that.
Nice.
But there are, he said, small butterflies or something when Samuel tells him he can go back and change one or two things without changing the bigger picture. I don't think that's going to be the case with Flash. I think there's not going to be any small butterflies. There's going to be he's going to step on all the butterflies.
I mean, well, and I feel like the Flash story really does tell us that the idea about going back in time to try to change things, it rarely ever leads to positive outcomes, right?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, it only makes things worse.
And Corey wants to know, can Barry take people with him in the movies? I would think so.
I think the idea that we're going to have multiple versions of similar characters on the same screen means that somehow he's either bringing people with him or things get merged together somehow. But yeah, I'm sure that Barry's able to give somebody a piggyback ride.
Yeah, and it wouldn't it be cool if everybody's like, well, where did you come from? I came from a different Earth. What are you talking about, different Earth? And he's like, yeah, this guy Cisco gave me this little button. Like, how cool would that be if he had encountered Cisco at some point? Because we know Barry Allen, that whole thing, and the movie Flash gets the name The Flash from Barry Allen from the CW.
Yeah.
And so that's really cool that they're actually giving it enough. I was gonna say credit, but like they're actually acknowledging each other and like, oh, this is real. This is real. Like this is. I'm excited. I'm excited
I
for
am too.
Flash. I don't
I am
know when
too.
it's coming out. I think it's coming out. I want to say December, or maybe it's like 6 years from now. Who knows?
It feels like we've been waiting for it forever.
Yeah, I mean it's been in development. It probably would have been finished by now had it not been for COVID and other things. But I'm excited.
Yeah. I
And I'm
mean, so
excited for Batman.
we know about the Batman. We know about the Flash. Black Adam is coming out.
Yeah, there was also a teaser for that, but I did not watch that one.
I watched it. I'm not actually. I feel bad. I'm not really familiar with Black Adam as a character. However, it seems to be maybe like a darker take on the character of Shazam, and
Yeah,
being that it's played by The Rock,
mhm.
Dwayne Johnson. I think I kind of feel like I have a pretty good feeling for the kind of character. The Rock really plays the same character in about every movie that he's in.
Yeah, except for maybe the Scorpion King.
Right. But even
And
that
that's
was sort of comedic.
it was.
Yeah.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think he's played anything other than his actual wrestling characters.
Right.
From and when I grew up loving wrestling, it was during the mid to late '90s at the height of popularity. And The Rock was a bad guy. He was a rich guy. He was a corporate guy. He was a man of the people, and all these different roles. And then he went into Hollywood, and it's like in the movies he did kind of play everything. So Black Adam makes me wonder if he's going to be like, oh, look at me, and then like do his little eyebrow thing, and then like he's going to be just that same dude, but like as Black Adam.
I will say that the character Black Adam seems to be a much darker take than we normally see from him. And in the trailer that I saw, it was like they were soldiers who had discovered him in like a cave, kind of by himself, and they shoot bullets at him, and of course they bounce off.
Yeah,
and then a soldier comes up to go and attack him, and he lifts the soldier off the ground, and with his lightning reduces the guy to ashes.
Jeez.
And so I feel like no word spoken.
Corey's he just popped up and says like, so we're gonna get a Jungle Cruise Black Adam. I almost said Batman.
Right.
Who knows?
Yeah, I don't know. I get the feeling again, like if you're hoping for a happy-go-lucky Dwayne Johnson, The Rock character, I certainly think he's going to go a lot darker. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm kind of like you. I don't really know a lot about the character, but I have played some video games based on DC Comics and characters. And Black Adam was a character in one of them, and he wasn't like a pure bad guy, but he was pretty opposite of like Shazam. He was like a darker kind of, I don't know if he's like an anti-hero. I don't remember enough about the character from that one game, but I believe the game was DC's Injustice series, which it's like a fighting game, kind of like a Mortal Kombat type of game, if people are familiar with that style of game. But they have a storyline as well in this story mode. And so you see these characters, and I want to say it's like Lex Luthor or somebody like that is going to terrorize the world and all these and their storylines. But then as they go, these characters have to fight. And so when it gets to the actual fights, you're just, like a beat 'em up type of game. And then when the fight's over, you're like, oh, we are victorious. And then you go to Atlantis and see Aquaman and then his story. And so it's an interesting thing. And I love the DC games.
Yeah.
Marvel games are okay, but the DC games are, I think, I don't know that they're better. It's just the story is like the Batman. I've been playing Batman games again, and it's the Batman Arkham series. It's I think Arkham Asylum is the first game, and you start off with Joker fighting against the Joker, and he's in Arkham Asylum, and then he escapes and he takes control of Arkham, and then Then the second one's Arkham City, and then Arkham Knight, and it's like a trilogy. And then they have great storytelling. And Mark Hamill, that's the reason I mentioned it, is because Mark Hamill's Joker in that video game is amazing, and he needs to play a live action Joker. I would love to see him as Joker on Titans.
Well, and I really do feel like, the nod to the Trickster in The Flash using Mark Hamill was really their way of them to kind of play with the audience that, see, we're using the same guy that voiced the Joker to do our own take on the character, on The Flash. I thought that was a really clever way.
It was.
And maybe they didn't have the rights to actually use the Joker, but they were able to kind of still give us a little taste of it.
I think the only live action TV show that I know that's used Joker, was it at the Gotham series? Wasn't there a Joker in that?
There was.
I didn't watch that. Several people have told me to watch it, but I just haven't watched it yet. But that was, from what I've seen of that, he was done in a little bit of a different way. So it wasn't quite like, hey, look at me, I'm the Joker. It wasn't quite like that, but it was still interesting from what I've read about it and I've seen pictures and clips. But I don't know. I don't know why they can't. It's kind of like the Green Lantern, I think. Like only certain ones can do it and certain ones can't do it.
It does seem to be like there are, we as the watchers, right, the viewers, the audience, we don't know what kind of contractual, legal limits there are on these characters, right? Only certain people have the rights to go and portray them, and that's why, as much as we want it, sometimes we don't get it, or there's only so much they can use.
Yeah. Corey brings up a good point too. He said the CW Flash used several 90s Flash actors. I didn't realize how many. I know John Wesley Shipp, of course. He's been several different versions of.
Right.
He's been Barry Allen from the 90s show. And then I believe it was, I forget the characters' names because I've never actually gone back and rewatched. I think I've seen some of them once, but not all of them. And if I have watched them, it's not been for a long time. But the original 90s Flash, his wife or girlfriend, Tina, what was her, the actress's name? I think her name was Tina, wasn't it?
Right. She was she was the one in charge of Mercury Labs, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she was on Flash. And I didn't realize that at first until recently. I was like, that was the same woman. I think, wasn't she Caitlin's mom? Or was it a different character?
No,
Caitlin's mom was somebody else.
No, so there was Mercury Labs, and she was in charge of that.
Yeah.
So I think they've been really clever about really leaning heavily on nostalgia. And it's not just 90s Flash that they've done. They've gone back to Smallville and gotten characters from Smallville, or actors from Smallville, and integrated them into the shows. So, you think about on Supergirl, Kara's mom was the original Supergirl from the Supergirl movie of the 80s. And then wasn't her father somebody else too?
I'm trying to remember. I know earlier on they had, I had Dean Cain was their dad, or her adoptive dad, and Alex's dad. But their mom. Now, her mom, was that like her adoptive mom or like their Kryptonian? Because wasn't her Kryptonian mom was? I'm trying to remember now. Jeez, it's been so long since I've seen some of those.
Her adoptive mom, right?
Right.
Her sister's biological mother, and so the idea that she had Dean Cain as a dad, and she had the original Supergirl as a mom. I thought that was really clever, and we've seen them do that intentionally throughout all of these shows.
That's interesting too, because like in Smallville, the same actress was Clark Kent's Kryptonian mother. And so that's why I got confused. I was like, wait a minute, because I was mixing them up in my head, because Lois Lane from Smallville was actually her Kryptonian mother in Supergirl.
Right.
So that's where I was getting confused, because like the same two people played like all these different and it's it is really cool. Like Supergirl and Superman and Lois. I think they've had a few Smallville people, but not like major, like big time, like kind of like, oh wow, it's her kind of things. But gosh, I'm excited for that show again too.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like season 1 for Superman and Lois was just about as good as it gets. I know there are some people that they had the expectation about the way they wanted things to go, but I really feel like the writing was great, the casting was fantastic, the stories were believable and complex and interesting, and it really did a great job of building up this new family, this new community, or maybe a community that we're already kind of familiar with, and yet we really didn't know very well.
Yeah,
And so I really love it. And then they did a great job of bringing in some new characters that I think have just really added a lot to the show.
it
So
really has.
I'm excited about where they go from here.
Yeah, I mean, they're finally kind of building up their team because we know John Henry Irons is going to be like involved next year,
Right.
and it's going to be strange with his daughter. Like, that's kind of interesting to see where that goes. But yeah, we're kind of getting not sidetracked. We're pretty on topic. That's what we normally talk about.
But we know that up until very recently, the idea that the other worlds exist, right?
Mhm.
The multiverse is still out there. Um, those on Earth Prime have really been led to believe that they're the only Earth that's left. And as we find
Yeah.
out, we know that from John Henry Irons, there are other Earths and there are ways to get back and forth. We know from John Wesley Shipp as the Golden Age Flash
Yeah.
on Stargirl that he's the same character, not a version, but it's the exact same character. The 90s Age Flash on Stargirl is the same one that we know on Earth Prime, and so
yeah.
we're
It's very
going to start.
confusing.
It is, but again, it's all that post-crisis stuff, right? Just how Superman and Lois go from having babies to twins
Yes.
to teenagers without a jump in time. It's all, thank you, Oliver Queen, the Spectre, right? You made our lives a little bit more, crazy.
I'm really interested to see, and I hope they do, because if they don't, it's going to bug me forever. They maybe just one little moment where Jay and Barry were talking. It's like, I remember Stargirl, and then they're like, "How do you know her?" Oh, well, he wouldn't know Stargirl. I mean, Starman, whatever, and making some sort of reference to Stargirl, and then they explain how he got to Earth Prime, because I just assumed he was on Earth Prime when the rest of the Earth blew up, and so he just stayed there because he's able to survive because, well, the real, well, not the real, but the doppelganger from Earth Prime is dead, which is Barry's father. And since he's not there, then this Jay could live there because he's not in danger and he thinks his Earth is gone. So he doesn't even know about all these other Earths. It makes me wonder, though, why he never mentioned, oh, well, Eclipso, blah, blah, blah. Like, he never mentioned any of that before. Maybe he just thought they were all dead since, the multiverse ended. But I want to see like a connection between those, like just a little bit of a story of like how he got from them killing the guy to end Eclipse for the first time to where they're at now with Jay. It's like, it's interesting. I want to see what happens with that.
I feel like this is a really great segue over to Stargirl. You saw this last episode.
Yeah, I think I've caught up with everything, and even Legends. I hadn't realized Legends and Batwoman had started back. I mean, I don't think Legends took a break for like 5 minutes, but Stargirl, I really like what I'm seeing here, and it's
it was a really kind of slow start to it.
Yeah,
but I feel like once they had that massive fight scene at the school between the new ISA and the JSA and the unleashing of that's coming out too. But that once Eclipso was released from the Black Diamond, I feel like things have just gone like super crazy. as far as the show's concerned. And being that it's like this lead up to Halloween, it really kind of makes sense to me that everything is really dark and twisted and warped. We see just how dangerous a foe somebody like Eclipso is.
Yeah. I like to like little moments like we know Rick is in jail now for beating the crap out of his stepdad, I guess it is. I mean, come on, the guy deserved it. But anyway, he's in prison, right? Or in jail, whatever, and then we see an apple fall through the window. So like Grundy is now feeding him apples. I thought that was amazing. I don't know, it was a little touch. Those little moments in that show that make it like, okay, that's cool. And then they catch back up with Green Lantern again too. We were wondering about that.
I think that had been the piece that I had been waiting for. They had introduced Green Lantern's daughter early in the season, and then we didn't hear anything else from her. And now bringing her back in the attempt to find a way to stop Eclipso. As they find out, using the Green Lantern ring to refuse the pieces of the Black Diamond, only kind of played into the hands of the Shade and summoned Eclipso to them. Talk about a guy who plays both sides of the field.
Oh my gosh! You know, you start to trust the guy, really trust him as an audience, and you're just like, oh, he is a decent guy. He's like an anti-hero now. He's helping. No, he manipulated them the entire time. I was like,
yeah,
what?
You get the feeling like the Shade is one of those who he may do good, he'll probably do bad, but you know that ultimately he's going to serve his own interests.
Exactly. And I don't know what those are exactly. I know he wanted his powers, I guess he was weak and he wanted to get and this so Karate Kid exists on Stargirl's Earth. So maybe the Cobra Kai school is on Earth too. Eclipso and the Shade's powers are linked, maybe to destroy Eclipso as well. See, maybe he was. Maybe Shade wanted his powers and all this stuff just so he could do it. He's like, no, you guys know it's my glory, my time to shine. I'm going to kill him, and then I'm going to be the villain and kill you after he's dead.
I think that on one level, the Shade knew that without the diamond being fused together, he was going to remain mortally injured and potentially die.
Yes,
he had to manipulate them to go and reforge the diamond for his own to keep him living. It's too bad that he didn't just tell them, listen, I need the diamond put together so that I can heal myself so I can help you fight Eclipso.
Yeah.
Instead, he set them up to deal with Eclipso on their own and get stabbed in the back.
He's dirty.
He is. And so I think we've learned, while the Shade might do some good things, right? Like helping Barbara out when she's being attacked. The fact is, he's not really on anybody's side. Definitely not on the side of the JSA.
No.
He's on his own on whatever he wants to accomplish. I thought there were some neat moments in there. Courtney getting sucked into the shadow realm.
Yeah.
Right? Just like what we saw with Shiv. And so I think what's going to be really cool is that we're going to see what the shadow realm is all about. I think that's going to be really, really interesting. We know that Dr. Midnight is there. We know that Shiv and probably a bunch of others are there as well. So the question is going to be, how does she get out? And my guess is that if she gets out, she's probably going to end up bringing Dr. Midnight and a bunch of others with her.
Oh, yeah. And maybe we'll find a little bit more out when we talk to Dr. Midnight himself in about, I want to say 2 weeks, 3 weeks, some early November.
November 7th was the date, I believe. Yeah,
yes.
So the guy who's been voicing Dr. Midnight on season 2 and who's going to be a regular member of the cast for season 3, we're going to get a chance to go ahead and speak with him here on the show. I think he's a really cool guy. And so I'm excited that we had a chance to do that.
I'm going to ask him to tell us everything and make him give us the story of what actually will happen. And if he doesn't, then we'll have to deal with it because he probably won't. But hey, it won't hurt to ask. Maybe one day we're like, hey, what's the spoilers for next
Right.
season? Well,
Right.
here they are. Number
Yeah.
one. Like, maybe.
Yeah. I think
Or at
it's. I
least give
think
us a bunch of fake ones. So we'll be like, yeah, well, they're going to have Spider-Man. Like, what? Wait, that doesn't make sense. And then,
right. So we had that awesome scene with Courtney getting sucked into the shadow dimension,
Mhm.
but we also had that scene where Mike recognizes that there's that pink lightning, and he follows it,
Yeah.
and he sees that um, giant gingerbread house and the candy canes, and he
Is that a
automatically
gumdrop?
right he makes the automatic connection that somebody has summoned Thunderbolt
Yeah.
and has started wishing. And I thought, why would somebody make a gingerbread house?
It's got to be that kid because remember, like Thunderbolt, he's like, sometimes I wish that someone more deserving had this, or he accidentally wished away Thunderbolt. So, and that we see the other kid picked up the pen and everything. So
Right.
maybe
This
the kid's
is
like, I wish I had a bunch of gingerbread, and then
no, you know what it is. Remember that if you're not specific with your wishes,
yeah,
that they backfire. So this is Jakeem,
yeah, yeah.
the Mike's friend. But here's what I bet you dollars to donuts. Jakeem had wished for a sweet house.
Oh my gosh, that's good. Yeah, I
That
want a
is,
sweet house.
I am sure that's what he did. That he
It
wished
makes
for a sweet house,
that makes a
and
lot more sense than what I was gonna say, where maybe his mom and him were going to eat a gingerbread house, and he's like, I wish I had one of those, and then, but maybe, but what if when the house turned into gingerbread? Do you think he sat there and said, "This house is bitching"? I mean,
it's possible. It's possible. But I think that that's certainly going to be we so far Thunderbolt really has really only been there for comic relief.
you're right.
Right? It's been more of a liability than an asset. But we know that the one element that the JSA has really been lacking besides experience has been there's nobody really with that magical element, right? And
Yeah.
so the pink pen is that magical element that they're going to really need to harness if they're going to defeat Eclipso.
And in the comic relief too, because there's not a lot of comedy in the show other than that character. I mean, there's a little bit here and there, but as far Jim Gaffigan is just great.
He really is.
And I
He
was
really
thinking to
is.
myself, like, if it wasn't him, who else could it be? David Spade would be a good one. He's like, ha ha. Just thinking of Joe Dirt, but just his voice. And depend, like, I don't know, but I'm excited to see where that character goes. It's cool to see that they're going to revisit that. I was hoping they wouldn't just.
It's not just cool; it's so cool.
Yeah, it's sweet.
Right. I was thinking that the only other part from Stargirl that we didn't talk about was that opening montage. Remember that it opened up and it said decades earlier,
Oh yeah, yeah.
right? And so we've had this come up a number of times in the group, and I've seen it around social media about how old really is Pat, right?
Yeah.
You know,
I mean,
we know that the Shade is certainly well over 100 years old, and we go,
mhm.
oh wow, that's crazy. But the members of the JSA, right? We're talking about decades from when the show takes place.
Mhm.
Um, you know, and they look like they're exactly the same age.
Yeah, and I was going to point that out too because Jay looks like a seasoned older Jay decades ago. So, like, how long has he been in the Flash? Like 75 years?
Yeah,
I mean, I could see him not aging as much because the super speed, like speed healing, all that. But Pat is just a guy.
right.
Maybe the
What?
striped shirt had de aging fibers in it. I don't.
Right. I don't know. I mean, and it really does seem like even when he and Sylvester were having that conversation, it really sounded like a conversation where they were reminiscing on the past.
Yeah.
right? It's not like they're just getting their start. It's like they've been fighting crime for a while, and so that's again. This is kind of like an area where they are intentionally not giving us all the facts. They want us to have these discussions to sort of go, what exactly is going on here?
I like that because it leaves you hanging just enough, but not to the point where like you're just completely confused.
No, I really do. It's sort of like their trail of breadcrumbs. They want us.
Right.
They're giving us just enough to talk about it, but they're not answering all of our questions on purpose. I will say that what I thought was really special and I think really important was that lengthy speech that Sylvester gave to Pat, where
Yeah.
he finally says, you know, tells Pat how important he is. Right up to this point, I think most people would agree that Pat's gotten a pretty raw deal. You know,
He really has.
he's been there with the team this entire time, but they have not really treated him as an equal in any way, shape, or form. And Sylvester has been the first person, mind you, it's really chicken shit of Sylvester to wait until it's just the two of them, right? It would have been something
Exactly.
more if it had been done in front of the entire team.
I think he was afraid of them. I mean, because you see, was at Wildcats like, "You're not a member of this team," and like yells at his face, pretty much saying like, "You're shit. Like, go away, little driver man." I'm like, come on, dude. If it wasn't for this guy fixing your car, you couldn't drive and kill all these people.
Yeah,
Or not kill them, but you know. And they were really rough to him, and it was
they
like,
really were.
it was, and it, despite it all, like he was always like, I love the JSA. And I'm here. And now I can. Why do I always have to do that impression every week? But yeah, he got a raw deal.
So I thought at least there was that moment where Sylvester, at least in private, told Pat and all of us watching that that he knows how important Pat is.
Yeah,
You know, and I think we all know that Pat is a hero, that he is, you know, he's experienced the fact that he alone has really survived through all of this.
the only one basically
Yeah,
who has.
yeah, that he's been left by himself to go and keep the memory of the JSA alive.
Yeah,
I think that's pretty telling. The fact that he now has a big giant, super powerful robot, I think is equally impressive. I keep wondering how they're going to integrate Mike into this because
I see him having a big robot, yet still smaller than the other one, and then the little one rides on the big one's back, and then they run away and like as robots, and I don't know.
but I do feel like Mike is essentially a lot like his dad, right?
Yeah,
Desperate to be a hero, but they always kind of keep him at arm's length. And
mhm,
I get it. Pat knows what the life is about. He understands that it's dangerous,
right.
and Mike has no powers and no way to defend himself. But he has that eagerness to run and get himself into trouble. Um, the problem is that Mike seems to get himself into trouble no matter what, um,
He really does.
and not training him or not involving him only makes it worse.
Corey, I thought about this too. I think we may have mentioned this, but Sylvester cameoed at the beginning of the season and still hasn't made it to Blue Valley. It is taking that guy a long time because he popped into a diner in like where was it, like Kansas or something, or maybe Florida, I don't know, and sees this girl and he's like, "I'm looking for your husband," and that was Pat's ex-wife. So that was like 8 years ago. Why is he not there yet?
I mean, apparently he's walking everywhere.
I guess so, but I mean,
Yeah,
and he doesn't have a staff. But you wouldn't the staff sense him being alive and go "Brrr," and then like fly over to him wherever he was, or maybe when Courtney picked it up and it kind of like picked her, and now he's like, oh, who's Sylvester, and he forgets about him.
I
I
think
don't
we're
know.
gonna I think we're gonna have a really interesting moment where the staff is going to have to decide who its true owner is.
Which,
Right?
of course, we all know that's going to lead to Sylvester giving it to her, passing it on to her,
Right.
because it's not going to start suddenly be called Starman. Um, so, I mean, you can't
Right.
really.
There are not two staffs, right?
No, they could
I
share it.
I think up to this point we've Stargirl has felt like she has taken something that really didn't belong to her, much like it is with
Hmm.
Beth and the goggles, or with Yolanda and the Wildcat outfit, or with Rick and the Hourman costume. They've
Which
all kind
that's
of
in
yeah,
Rick's case, that's very interesting because not only did he just give up, but he broke it.
he did.
He shattered the hourglass. So it's like, how does that come back if it does?
I think that what we're gonna find out is that uh, in all of their cases, those are not the only copies they've got. There are others.
Well, it could also be in true CW fashion. You had the power within you the whole time,
Right.
and it's like, oh, okay. Oh,
We certainly know that it's not the end. Right.
no.
It's not the end. Uh, I think that what we're really going to end up seeing though is this. Um,
Corey
yeah,
said the staff was made, so we don't really know how or if it could be the only one. They could make another one.
there could be, and we also know that according to the comics, there's also that belt, right, that goes along with it.
Yeah.
Um, you know, so just because Courtney currently possesses the staff doesn't mean that Sylvester doesn't have another weapon that he could use if he chooses to continue the life.
Mhm. So yeah, gosh, there's so many shows to cover now.
Look, we got to go to Titans.
Yeah, Titans, we gotta get because that's a big one.
It really is huge.
Um, so yeah, Dick died, and the show was over, and it's canceled. Um, no,
Not quite. Not
not
quite.
quite. But yeah, like that was. I figured he might die. I didn't think the show would open with his death. I was like, wow, okay, like they're really gonna do this. But of course, we knew he was the pit. Um,
Yeah, I mean the minute that Gar and Rachel had discovered the pit again, um, I knew that Dick was going to go into it.
oh yeah, he was
I think,
definitely gonna go in.
yeah, the way he went in though, I thought was interesting. You
Yeah,
know, you had made that comment previously that Beast Boy kept seeing bats.
yeah, and I actually had to think back to that because I think I was saying the bats were following Dick around, but uh, I meant Beast Boy. I don't know why I said Dick at the time. I guess because Be a Better Batman was stuck in my head. But yeah, they were flying around him. They were like, "Oh yeah, they just follow me. It's no big deal." Like they were flies. Like he hadn't showered or something. He just didn't care. I knew that was going to lead to something.
Yeah,
And
but I think that
mhm.
Garfield though really needed a moment. We'd been waiting for that time when he finally realized that he could turn into something other than just that green tiger.
And
And
they've been kind of teasing that the whole season too. He's
they
like,
have.
"I don't know why I can't turn into a gerbil." Or whatever, and he was all sad about not being able to change anything and not being able to control it. And you see the bats. I'm like, hmm. And then at first I thought the bats were just like a foreshadowing of Batman being Dick Grayson, but then he died. I'm like, okay, that's not gonna happen. And then he shows up and just and he like hulks out into a little bat, and then they magically go, oh look, we're all the little bats. He's the main bat. Let's carry this dead guy for him. And then of course they put him into the pit, and he springs up in his regular clothing, which is a
So
point you made that I didn't notice at first.
yeah, I thought that was an interesting decision that he goes into the pit and he's wearing his Nightwing outfit
Yeah.
and he goes through his ordeal in the pit, that kind of battle for his soul, so to speak, and he emerges in regular clothes. And I thought that was odd. Um,
Yeah.
we know that the Lazarus pit doesn't just simply restore somebody; that people generally emerge from the pit different than when they go in.
Usually, and that's what I found odd too. I'm glad they showed his struggle and his fight in the pit, because where he was really in, I guess, their version of purgatory or whatever that was. It wasn't the literal water, but it was his soul like fighting to come back. It's interesting because we didn't really see that with Arrow as much. They were just like there, and then they had to get somebody like Constantine or something to come and like do a spell to get their soul back or whatever. Like, they didn't show as much of what we saw in Titans, which I thought was really cool. I wonder if that was like the same afterlife world where Hank was, or if it was like a separate purgatory world. Either way, they didn't interact, so it doesn't really matter, I guess.
Right.
But yeah, that was really cool how they did that. And
I think
him coming out with the suit, without the suit, I don't know. I mean, it could just be a big metaphor, not metaphor, but symbolism. Like, oh, Dick Grayson came back to life, but not Nightwing, because Nightwing wasn't really who he is. I don't know.
I think you could take it in a lot of different ways, and what we see next week is probably going to really delve into that a bit more. It was an expensive suit. It's too bad there wasn't a cowl to protect his neck on it. You know, why make something bulletproof but expose his head? That's silly. It's almost like Bruce Wayne didn't care about his head getting shot.
His little mouth and chin right here, he didn't protect either.
Right. But
like Bruce Wayne just, ow, my lip.
Right. But no, I want to talk about what happened though in the vision that he had while he was in the pit. Because most of the time that he was there, he's really kind of going through that. It's almost like Scarecrow is acting the part of the devil.
Yeah.
Right? That he's the devil, kind of telling him, you know, why try? This is who you are. You know, and even that when we see Dick and he's dressed up as the Joker, and he is you know, actively beating Jason Todd with a crowbar.
That made me go like, whoa.
That was a pretty crazy part.
But it makes me wonder if that actually happened. And then, like, if when we see Joker killing Jason, if that wasn't just at first, and then I was like, "There's no way that happened," because at first I thought this was like a flashback of like what actually happened, and it was like, "Oh, that's why we didn't see Joker, because it was Dick the whole time, and he was manipulated and like in a trance." And it was like, but no, but it was still cool.
Yeah, I think that ultimately what it was talking about was that Dick, the way that he feels toward Jason, right, is that he hadn't forgiven Jason for what had happened with Hank. That really feeling like, you know, he had deserved what he got, and he wants to continue punishing Jason for what happened.
And I think that kind of ties in with the symbolism of him coming out in regular clothing, because he realized that as Nightwing in that moment, he was no better than the Joker.
He was no better than Batman.
Oh yeah, and then so coming out like with that shell shed away, maybe he will either be a better Batman or be a better Nightwing. Who knows?
The crowbar had been a real symbol, you know, that the Joker had used the crowbar to kill Jason. Batman had used the same crowbar to kill Joker. And in that vision, Nightwing was using the crowbar. It was this big circle. And I think that what Dick finally does is he's like, I'm not doing this anymore. Right? I'm gonna leave that behind. I'm gonna stop living like that. And I think that's part of the reason why he comes out different. The other part was that he sees his real father, the acrobat who had died, with a younger version of himself. You know, a lot of the problems that Dick and Jason have had they've been chasing after father figures, right? He loses his dad. Bruce Wayne becomes the surrogate father. and he uses that to manipulate Dick, and Dick has resented that all along. And I
He
think
really
that,
has.
yeah, I really feel like what that vision really showed him is that, his real father has never been gone, and that
No.
he's still connected to him. Um, and he doesn't need to. He doesn't. Number one, he doesn't need to uh, let the anger over the loss of his family drive him anymore. Nor does he have to hold on to the loss of Bruce Wayne as a father figure anymore either.
I mean, I'm really excited to see where it goes.
I am
from there.
too. I am
It's
too.
almost to the end. I mean, every episode, like the last 2 weeks, I'm like, oh, that's got to be the finale, because I don't know how many episodes they're gonna have and everything. I don't really follow like how many episodes, like who's in the next one. I don't, I don't. Not that I don't care. It's just I like to just I did that with Flash. I did that with all these other CW shows. But then I'm like, I don't care how many episodes there are. I'm just gonna watch it and react.
Yeah.
And I don't want to sit there and focus too much on this is episode like 16 out of 22, and I am excited because I don't really care how many they have. I'm just gonna watch the story and have fun with it.
Yeah.
And each one, I'm like, this has got to be the end. This has got. Oh my gosh! Like you don't think they can go bigger, but they always do.
So I've got to say that what they've done they've got a lot of these, I think, right now, sort of side stories, right? We've got the side story with Donna and with Tim, who's going to be the new Robin. And, Donna had said in the previous week, she had said, I spent my entire life learning how to make 5 people fight 50, or how to make 50 fight 500. And so I really do feel like Donna is stepping into her place as a leader.
Yeah.
And I think that's been really needed. Dick has really been alone in trying to wrangle this team together. He needs somebody like Donna and her experience to finally bring the team together. I still think that Tim seems really eager to become a superhero.
He does.
He doesn't seem to understand the consequences that can come with that life.
I think he'll figure out pretty quick. I wanted to point out too and bring up something that someone in, I think it was the Titans group that we're both in, made a comment. It's a humorous little post that I read it earlier today. They were like, "Wait a minute, how did Tim's parents not notice all his like equipment on their electric bill?"
I loved that one. That was great.
And I'm just like, okay, that's a good point. But then somebody else also pointed out something. It's like, well, they own a restaurant, dude. Like all these ovens and all this stuff. And then I said the same thing. I was like, yeah, like think about the ovens alone. Even if they're gas, like natural gas or propane or whatever, they still have electricity to start and all the fans that you have to have and the vents and all this stuff. They probably wouldn't even notice, like, because somebody was like, what, like 5 computer screens? They don't take up that much energy. And it was a fun little back and forth on that post. I was just they have a good point. They have a good point. Oh my gosh. It was confusing but funny, and it was neat. I liked that post.
I think what we've noticed in a lot of these shows, especially in regards to parents, are that parents are just completely oblivious about what their kids are doing. Right?
Parents just don't understand.
They don't. They don't. They try.
Thank you, Will Smith.
They absolutely don't. We saw that in Stargirl. The parents have no idea what's going on, and definitely the parents thought, "Oh, we just used that to store rice," and the idea that had been his.
Of course, it's the processors that burn energy.
Right.
And I think that I don't think it was really computers that he's running. I don't know how Tim was doing it, but remember everybody else's internet was out. And all their electricity they had electricity at the restaurant. But wait a minute, they should have noticed on the light bill because the restaurant was closed. They were just living there for a while because they couldn't leave. So during that time, they should have noticed their light bill go way up.
Here's my guess. This is my guess is if Tim is smart enough to go and hide his lair from his parents if he's smart enough to be this detective where he knows who all of the secret identities of the Titans are, I think he's probably smart enough to hide, to get his power off the grid and to hide it so that people don't know that he's using it.
It's just
That's my 2 cents in the whole matter.
And it's one really long, thick orange extension cord going to the laundromat next door.
Yeah, it's like, what's going on? Where did you get your power? Yeah.
But the bigger question for me is, how does he convince his parents not to go into that room? Like, no, Mom and Dad, don't go in there. I'll get the rice. Like, eventually they're going to go in there, right?
I think that we all have that. We all have that, whether it's the junk drawer or whether it's the catch-all room where you just kind of throw stuff in the door and shut it.
Yep.
This is probably that room, that place where there's nothing in there that we need. There's no reason. I get depressed when I go back there. You know what? Let's just treat it like it doesn't exist. And he took advantage of that. Now,
in my case, that's my car.
Right. But I think that we all have that. We all, whether it's we've got a bench here in my room where it's like extra storage, but things get piled up on top of it. Some people have the chair. I think that, again, it was Tim hiding in plain sight.
I mean, I literally have some right behind me here. There's like stacks of notebooks and things on top of my printer. And I'm just like, that corner is like one of those things for me.
So I'm interested to see how this works. I feel like, their story is going to intersect with Nightwing and Barbara Gordon. That's what we're going to see with that part of it. The battle for Gotham and the ultimate defeat of Crane, who, by the way, he was crazy smart before. Now he's just crazy. It's like he became, Jeffrey Dahmer overnight. That scene where he's taunting Barbara Gordon in the prison cell, telling her that Nightwing is dead, and he's holding the severed hand of the man that he has murdered.
Yeah, he's just like playing with it and like tossing it around. Like, what are you doing, dude?
I mean, it reminded me of, it was very Shakespearean. Alas, poor Yorick. I knew him well, Horatio. That speaking to the skull of a person that he knew, very nonchalantly, by the way.
Yeah.
And then the way that he had taken that razor and ruined his face.
Oh, yes.
I mean,
he was so convinced because the Scarecrow told him, which is himself, that, he wasn't anything and like he needed him and all this other stuff. It was like, I really wanted to see him suit up and wear the actual mask and the Scarecrow thing, but the scarring his face is even creepier.
Yeah, I think that his ruined face like that is certainly scarier than any mask that he could put on.
It's really just a burlap sack. It's what they keep the rice in at Tim's parents' restaurant.
It is. That's where he got it from.
It's all connected.
I still wonder, though, why people are following him.
Yeah, right? I don't know. Even the cops. Cops, everybody.
My good friend Clemente Moore had made a comment that the one thing he doesn't like about the show is the fact that they paint it as that there are only dirty cops in the Gotham PD, and I responded, I think rightly so, that there isn't a movie or TV show where they ever show Gotham PD as being full of credible people.
Right.
They're always corrupt, but Titans seems to have really leaned into that. That all of them are pro Crane and anti-Titan and really working against the people of Gotham. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see how that whole thing plays out. The other storyline that I think is equally interesting is the Blackfire side of things.
They all drink the water, or they drink the water the cops do.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
That would make a lot more sense.
They all drink the water.
They're easier to manipulate that way.
And somebody on the same group that we're talking about, on the Titans group, they made a comment too of who would have drank the water? Like, who sits there and goes, ooh, sink? You know, they either have bottled or they filter it or whatever. But then somebody else made a good counterpoint. You know, the shower, you absorb the water through your skin and all this other stuff. So, I mean, it is interesting, though, to see that the entire town is against the Titans all of a sudden just because one man told them to be.
You think, though, that how many people may have drunk the water before they knew it was dangerous?
A lot.
Yeah.
At least a third of the city, probably.
Yeah. And once they're under that influence, how long does it last?
6 to 8 weeks. I don't know. The rest of the season, I would imagine.
That would probably that makes sense. But that side of the story with Blackfire.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Right, Blackfire has the powers that had been taken from her by her parents when she was a child, and she seems ready and willing and excited to use them and to reclaim her position on Tamarind. But before she goes, she's going to get her revenge on those who held her captive.
Mm-hmm. And then it seems like Superboy is, kind of getting a little dirty too.
He is. Now, you gotta give her credit though. She followed. It was that Lassie moment, right? That Lassie moment. Crypto, where's Superboy?
Rough.
He's in the mine shaft.
Rough.
But she follows Crypto, and she saves Superboy, and he joins her. Kind of a little bit of a Bonnie and Clyde moment. He decides, you know what, I'm gonna go with Blackfire and help her get revenge.
It really was kind of like, it reminded me of being a teenager and really liking a girl, and she was like, go rob that bank. So I did it. And then she took all the money, and then I cried. Well, that didn't happen, but moments like that, when he is essentially a teenager or a kid, because he's really like 3 weeks old, but all of that, like, he's very influential, and he's this girl that he broke a bed with. She's like, do this for me. Like, okay. It didn't matter. She could be like, go kill Dick. He's like, all right.
Yeah, I think that Blackfire realizes that he could easily be manipulated.
Oh yeah.
But I think that she underestimates him a little bit too. In the same moment they go there to that place where she had been imprisoned, and in the process we find that her ship is there too.
Mm-hmm.
And for her, she's like, finally, I can go home. I can regain my throne with my power. Finally, everything that had been denied to me, I'll get it back. And the problem is that the power source for the ship isn't there, right? It doesn't run off of unleaded gasoline,
unfortunately, or diesel.
Yeah, it seemed like it required some type of nuclear fusion. And
plutonium,
right?
1.21 gigawatts. Like,
we need Doc Brown here, stat.
We're the Libyans,
right? Yeah. How convenient that it was something that that Superboy, between his powers and his Lex Luthor intellect, should be able to go ahead and create.
Mm-hmm.
But do you think that he's very enthusiastic about his new girlfriend?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Superboy did something to the power source.
I really think that he did. The look on his face, he's like, you can't go home if your ship's blown up.
I think honestly he just wanted to get in there one more time. That's all. I'm not gonna elaborate too much. I don't want to go into too much details. This is the Star Show. This isn't HBO Max.
No.
But I think a lot of that was just like, oh, I like her. I don't, I want that. And so I think he could have. Or I think
what you're saying is,
I don't know.
Yeah, I think that, he was being selfish, right? He didn't want to just hit it and quit. He wants to keep hitting it. And he can't do that if she leaves.
Yeah.
Right?
He can't. I mean, because for some reason Kryptonians can't live there; they can't survive. Is it made of kryptonite or something? I don't.
Well,
Yeah,
I think their son, you know,
red sun maybe.
Superboy's powers really only work on Earth. The further he gets away from Earth and the yellow sun, the less his powers work, right?
Corey's always got the good comment. That's you don't go human. I mean,
Right.
I guess not. But he could destroy a human. Okay, yeah, this isn't like Jerry Springer, so but yeah, I think he definitely did something to the power source. Maybe he started to do it and then maybe hesitated and then like it was too late because he did look surprised kind of at the end, like or whatever. Like, did I really just do that? Like maybe his like hormones or his mind, subconsciously he did it, but he didn't really intend to.
I will say one cliche in the show that seems to be played out at this point is how many times are they going to have Connor standing in the middle of something that blows up in his face?
Yeah,
that really does happen a lot. But
oh no.
But generally speaking, in the past, those had been moments where he had done everything he could to stop it. I really believe that this time Connor did it intentionally.
Maybe.
And I think that while, Blackfire was more than happy to go and play along with Connor, once she realizes that Connor intentionally blew up her ship and her ability to go home, I don't think she's going to be very happy about that.
No. And Corey made a good point. I was getting into the Kevin Smith territory with those kinds of jokes. I'm glad I didn't say the other things that were on my mind during that because I was kind of on a roll internally, but I was like, I better stop right there. But yeah, wow. This conversation has gone on quite a while now. We've gotten up to a little over an hour.
I know.
We're probably not going to get to cover everything we wanted to talk about tonight. But I did kind of want to just not gloss over it, but just kind of quickly mention Legends and Batwoman. Batwoman to me, same thing. I mean, nothing spectacular happened that I noticed. Nothing like eye-opening, like, oh my gosh, huge reveal. We do get to see more of Batwing.
I enjoyed Batwoman more than I enjoyed Legends.
Yeah, I liked Legends. I mean, but then again, it's the same thing as it was, and I like that about it. With Legends, I will say that the one big moment that I loved was at the end when Gideon comes to life, and then you realize when they finish the spell and then the magic trickles in and they didn't rebuild the ship, and you realize that like when they mention that the spell only works for humans. I never connected the dots that's how Gideon becomes human. I just assumed they used the body printer to print a body for Gideon.
Right.
Out of nowhere. And then it was like, oh, well, no, she literally came to life, which was really cool. And we have the same actress who voiced her. And I've been trying so hard to get her on this show. I just want her to sit in the background, turn the camera off, and just have her sound like, gosh, you've been on the air for 15 minutes. Or whatever. I don't know.
That would be really cool. No, I think that they essentially have done to Gideon what happened with Jarvis, right?
Yeah,
Jarvis becoming, she's the Vision. I think it will be interesting to see whether she's just, human with the personality of Gideon, or whether she retains some kinds of abilities. That would be interesting to find out.
I think she's going to be straight up Gideon. Like, she's going to have the memories. She's going to have the knowledge. She's going to be able to access files and telepathically almost control the Wave Rider when they eventually get it back. Because, the reason that they blew up was because another Wave Rider blew them up. So we don't know who that is.
Right.
And they're coming up on their, 100th episode, 700th episode, whatever spectacular moment they're hitting. And we're going to see a lot of returning characters. We're going to see, we know we're going to see Captain Cold. And we're going to see Rip Hunter. We're going to see all these returning characters, but they're going to be, obviously it's Legends, so they're going to be going to previous time frames.
Right.
They're not all going to come back to life and just appear.
Right.
So that's going to be really cool.
I will say I've always been a big Arthur Darvill uh, fan who plays Rip Hunter from
Mhm.
back in his time with Doctor Who. Uh, Ironically, the idea that he had spent, uh, a considerable amount of time traveling with a time traveler uh, before becoming a time traveler himself. Uh, I feel like that's cool that they
Yeah,
kind of connected the two. There has to be, uh, that they intentionally used him for that purpose.
has to be.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, those shows are going all right. So that right now in the moment we've got what, 4 DC shows, or is it still 3? Legends, Batwoman, Supergirl, Stargirl. Yeah, four. Because Supergirl we didn't really talk about yet, but we can't really go into too much detail. We've been going on for a little while, but I'm interested to see where that goes. Where that show goes because it's the final season. I really didn't care about the show before I found out that they were ending it because it just kind of got stale for me. But I have been enjoying the stories so far. The whole thing with the totems and it really reminds me of like older Legends with the totems and all this stuff, and I just want to see how that ties up. And where's like did Lex Luthor die? Because I missed like 2 seasons, and I don't know where he's at this whole time. And they talk about him, but they don't ever show him. I'm like, and the stuff that really got me, like those like the heartstring parts, were like when they adopted the little girl. Have you watched Supergirl? I should ask that first because I'm
Yeah,
just like
no,
tipping it.
I have it. I will agree that the moments with the little girl. No,
Yeah.
first, the
Oh.
idea here that, um, they're relatively newly married,
Hmm.
and that they ultimately decide to adopt this girl that nobody else wants because she's an alien and they don't understand her. Um, I thought that was a really cool moment,
It was
right? And
awesome.
they've, yeah,
And those moments where she's like, "It's okay if you want to take me back. I understand." Like, oh come on! Like, what has this girl been through?
yeah. Well, you get the idea. She's been in the foster system, and like a number of people that I've known raised in the foster system, um, they get used to not being wanted, right? Or they get
Hmm.
used to being abused, and um, I think that's part of the light they're shining here at the show is that there are a lot of needy kids out there who need
Hmm.
homes, and so kind of cool that you got this lesbian couple who they've made room in their homes um, for this girl, and I think in many ways for for Supergirl's sister, it's like um, she's doing for this little girl what her family had done for Kara.
Right.
I think that was a really cool thing that they do. Typical new parents though they're trying too hard.
Or what if the little girl at the end of the season grows up and overnight and becomes a supervillain they all have to kill? Whoa!
That
I
would be a
hope
real
not.
that would be a real twist. I don't think that's going to happen.
I did. We still need to briefly talk about heels, but I wanted to throw out there a couple of things that I had been watching last. I think it was yesterday or the day before. I watched Halloween Kills,
Okay,
which that I love how that graphic looks. It's just right there. Doesn't, but such a good movie. I don't want to give away too many spoilers, but I'll give you one the biggest spoiler there is. Michael Myers kills a lot of people.
really?
Um,
I
yeah,
had no idea. Here I thought it was going to be a musical.
I mean he does do a song and dance number, but he doesn't really say anything. He just like tap dances, but instead of tap shoes, he uses knives, and instead of his feet, he uses his hands. Um, so basically, he just stabs and like kills a bunch of people. But it was fun. It's the first like horror slasher like Halloween movie that I or any movie in general like that I'd seen in a long time. And I watched it streaming on Peacock,
Okay,
which I thought about in theater because the jump scares. Like that's why I don't like horror typically because it's all jump scares. You see like like and like oh it's a cat. It's not even anything dangerous
right.
or
They're intentionally playing a game with the audience to make
yeah.
them, you know, instead of actually, instead of actually going and giving you the action, they're going to play with your emotions.
And that's why these movies like this, the story doesn't really matter that much. Because people these days, all they want to see, like the fans of these movies, they just want to see people get slaughtered. They don't really care about like Michael Myers' feelings, his backstory too much. They just want to see him kill a bunch of people.
I think going into a Halloween movie what you're going to get, right? How he goes about it, um, how they ultimately end up surviving it, or ultimately ends up surviving it. That tends to be, it'll probably be Jamie Lee Curtis, um, but still, that's kind of the part that keeps people going back.
And if you notice the details on his mask, I didn't watch the last 75 Halloween movies. Might have seen like the first one and then missed 2 through 74 and then saw this one. But his mask is burned, which in the previous film they trap him and burn him and they think, oh, he's dead. But clearly he comes back, but his mask is still burned, which I thought was a nice touch that they kind of continued on and it's not like a reboot every single movie.
Right.
Another show I want to talk about real quick was One of Us is Lying, which I told you about earlier. And a lot of people, if you've seen like 13 Reasons Why, 12 Reasons Why, that show was more. It was more like a PSA, honestly, but it had a good story and it was intriguing. It was dramatic, and a girl commits suicide and they all figure out why. And so like that's the whole season. And this show, similar. It starts off all Breakfast Club, like 5 kids get in trouble. They're in the principal's office or in the library, wherever. And then all of a sudden, one of them dies. Like, ooh, who killed him? Like that kind of thing. And it's sort of like Breakfast Club and Clue, like the board game, mixed in with 13 Reasons Why and like jumbled all up together. It's a really interesting show. I just started watching it a couple of days ago and I got hooked on it. I was like, wow, okay, gotta watch this. And they only have, I think, 6 episodes, which I'm hoping, I don't know how it ends. It could end in a massive explosion where everybody dies. I don't know. But hopefully they do more because I love 13 Reasons Why.
Yeah.
That show was pretty realistic from what I understand. And they had to even go back to the first season and take away the suicide scene because it was so... I don't know. I think a lot of people thought it was a little too much.
They took it away?
On Netflix, they recut the episode in the 13 Reasons Why, and it was the scene specifically where she actually slits her wrists in the bathtub. They cut that part out because it was a little too like on the nose. Like, look, step 1, get razor blade. Step 2, hold. They felt like it was too like if people that were having those kinds of thoughts and like hopeless and they're like, oh, this is how I can do it. Why watch it? Which I get. I was like, okay, I get that. But that show is a little intense. This show is not as intense as that.
Right.
But it's still entertaining. It's like, it really is a mystery, like who killed this person.
Yeah.
And just as soon as you think somebody did it, something happens. You're like, no, it was him. And you're sitting there trying to like, I love it. I think it's a great show. And it's on Peacock.
And I'm going to make my argument for leaving that scene in there. Because I feel like, they created 13 Reasons Why to get people talking. Right, to get people's attention. They knew that they were really, hitting a hot button issue regarding teenage suicide. Even this week, I've seen posts online from people. I'm a fan of the musical Dear Evan Hansen, and there have been a number of people that Dear Evan Hansen addresses the same idea. When we sanitize movies like that or TV shows like that and remove the reality that there are people that go to these extremes to end the pain they're going through, I think we end up avoiding the truth that these shows are trying to tell, that there are people that go to great lengths to try to end the pain. And I know that show made a big impact to me. It was when I watched it with that scene in there, it was one of those, jaw drop moments. I know that my kids had watched it without me, and I had to follow with each of them and talk with them about it because I didn't want them just to process it on their own.
Right.
But it was one of those things that I could mention 13 Reasons Why in my classroom, and all of the kids in my class had seen it. So
Yeah, I mean I think they did a wonderful job. I was kind of disappointed that they ended it, but I mean logically, where would they have gone, with that show and that setting? Like those kids were graduating, and it's like you really can't do anything else. But I kind of like the structure. It was a 4-year plan. They did it. It really tells a story of their lives in high school, and they kind of grew up and got past. I mean, I got past, but they grew, and they didn't really need to tell the stories anymore. But as far as the scene being recut, it was just the specific moments of like the actual action,
right?
And that because they show her getting in the water ready and all that stuff, and then they kind of basically show her like her face, kind of like instantly reacting, and then they show her mom like finding her and stuff like. So they cut out the really detailed parts, which I kind of agree. I think they should have left it alone, as I don't think it was instructional, like a how-to video. It was like, look, if you, it's kind of one of those like out of sight, out of mind kind of things, like you were saying, like if you don't see it, you don't think it's real, and so we can't put that into perspective in our own minds of like this is happening with kids today still, and we show them like this is what it looks like, and like, oh wow, that really is happening. It really raises that awareness, which is the point of the entire show to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, the fact is that this stuff happens. And if we don't talk about it, if we just sanitize it, then it's not going to make the kind of impact. It's not going to make people talk about it like it deserves. So I realize that might be a little bit off track from the movie or the show that you're talking about. But if it's anything like that, it definitely deserves a look.
I think there's similarities. I mean, it's not as in depth, but it deals with the drama, the like secrecy of high school, and not wanting people to know who you really are, but then wanting them to know who you are, and it has a lot of that.
Yeah.
I guess we need to really go over quickly about Heels.
So I guess the question for you to think about is,
Mhm.
do you want to do Heels now, or do you want to give it the time that it deserves?
We could wait. I guess
So
we could have like simple, quick reactions of the finale or overall thoughts of it, and then maybe go more into detail next week.
I feel like there's so much that goes on in Heels that if we just try to cram it in here at the end of our episode, it's not doing it justice. So I say let's make this our teaser trailer for next week. That next week we're gonna go full whole hog on Heels. If you haven't watched it yet, this is really your chance to go and get your free subscription. 7 days to go and get Stars. Binge Heels all at once right now while you can, and then come and let us know what you think. I really enjoyed it.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it.
And while it's definitely one of those where if you like professional wrestling, or if you like Stephen Amell in any way, shape, or form, you'll like it. But those are not prerequisites. It's a great show.
Oh my gosh, the guy, I never can remember his name, the actor, but I always know him. He plays Wild Bill in Heels. I think I want to say his name is like Ben something or something like that. I don't know, but you know the guy I'm talking about.
Yeah,
he's been in so many different things over the years, and he's such a versatile actor. But yet his voice and his attitude always seem to stay the same. I'm not going to do it. I'm a badass. But then his actual personality is a little bit different each time. Because I watched True Blood, and he was like the sheriff or whatever, or a cop, and he's like, I'm just living here in Louisiana. Them people, I'm the law. And then in this show, I'm a wrestler. I'm going to beat everybody up. Like he's the same guy, but he's completely different. And I love that dude. I don't know.
So I will look forward to us talking about Heels in more detail next week.
Right. So and I got to say too, I love Michael Malley. Like I said that last time, Michael Malley he plays such a good like villain, and he's a showrunner for that show as well. So maybe we can have Michael Malley. He was not doing much, I guess. I don't know. Mike, I know you're watching this. You watch it every week. I know you.
Yeah.
Do. I loved you on Nickelodeon shows before you got all big and famous and made great TV shows. And Stephen Amell can come too if he feels like it.
Yeah, we'll make some room for Stephen.
Right. Let's see. Yeah, I guess it's a good amount that we covered today.
Yeah, let's put up our Twitter information, our YouTube. If you guys are watching this and you have not yet checked us out on YouTube or subscribed to our channel,
Yes.
then make sure. What are you waiting for? Make sure that you subscribe. Make sure you like, comment, share, all that good stuff.
And we're gonna do that a little bit different tonight because Corey has made us an outro video where it's basically a quick little. If it's too short, go back and pause it and watch it again because it's like their intro theme, but with all of the information on a graphic. So we could play it maybe a couple of times just in case. We're gonna. So yeah, that's got all of our information on it, like our personal Twitters, which I wasn't going to include at first, but I was like, you know what? Let's put it all in there. And our YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, all that stuff.
All right, perfect.
So, going forward, I guess we'll close out with that. That way, maybe play it at the beginning of the episode. Maybe I'll use that. No, it says thank you for watching. I'm getting sidetracked. I'm getting in my own head. But yeah, next week, Heels. I'll try to get Stephen Amell to come to my house so we can. He's probably closer to you, actually. But yeah, I'm excited to talk about Heels and to talk about the rest of our shows for the week. And Flash, I think Flash comes back next. I want to say November. So that's exciting.
All right.
Superman and Lois, I'm not sure. Probably 2075 is when the season 2 comes out.
It feels like that, doesn't it?
It does. We'll ask our best friend Jordan Elsass when it comes out, because I believe they're in production on season 2 now. But hopefully soon.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, this has been fun. Thank you.
It has been. I'm glad I finally got to get on and make it and didn't have to cancel.
I know you were I
was like, oh my god,
rushing to get here. So
I didn't even eat or change. I just came straight to the computer. Okay, let's do this. So I'm gonna go eat and watch some more of One of Us Is Lying, and we can talk maybe a little bit more about that too next week.
Okay.
But yeah, it's been a great show, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Have a good night.
You too.
All right.
See ya.